For months have gone by. 4 months and 4 days to be exact. On October 10, 2025, the Fasoibo initiative officially began. At first, many people saw it as nothing more than a local cleanup effort, another short-lived urban improvement campaign that would fade with time. Few expected what would follow. By February 14, 2026, Kedougou was telling a completely different story. In just 4 months, more than 200,000 square meters of paving stones had been completed. No massive foreign loan, no years of paperwork, no complicated external procedures. The work was carried out through local manpower, locally sourced materials, and a shared belief that change did not need to wait for permission. In the Nando region where the project started, the transformation became visible almost immediately. Roads that once turned into clouds of red dust during the dry Sahel season were now covered with neatly arranged granite paving stones. Dust levels dropped. Streets looked brighter. The city seemed to put on a new skin, orderly, solid, and confident. What impressed observers was not only the speed, but the method. Each day, between 200 and 300 volunteers reported to construction sites. Students used their free time to help. Civil servants adjusted their schedules after work hours. Traders donated materials. Even members of the military joined in, representing unity and national solidarity. The numbers reflect the scale of commitment. More than 1,850 tons of cement were donated. Around 1,800 tons of sand and granite were mobilized. Close to 8 million CFA francs were contributed in cash. Nearly 5,000 stone molds were put into operation. By mid-February, enough paving stones had been produced to cover almost 295,000 square meters, with more than 200,000 already installed in Kedougou. But statistics only explain part of the story. The deeper impact lies in the shift in mindset. Ibrahim Traoré is often mentioned as the figure behind the vision. His message encouraged each region to take responsibility for its own development instead of waiting for limited state budgets or international assistance. For many residents of Burkina Faso, Fasoibo represents more than sidewalks and urban beautification. It represents proof that organized internal strength can deliver fast and measurable results. Kedougou is not the capital. It is not the financial hub of the country. Yet it suddenly became a national symbol of community mobilization. From the Maurice Yumiogo roundabout to the main roads, every stone placed carried a message. Development does not always have to begin with a large loan. This leads to a broader question. If one city can complete over 200,000 square meters of sidewalks in 4 months using domestic resources, could this model reshape how development is understood? Could initiatives driven by social mobilization reduce the central role traditionally played by institutions, such as the World Bank in basic infrastructure projects? It may be premature to declare any institution unnecessary. Large national projects still require significant capital and technical expertise. But Kedougou demonstrated something powerful. When people see their own contributions turn into visible progress, trust spreads faster than borrowed money. In 4 months, 200,000 square meters were paved. But beyond the physical change, a city awakened to its own capacity. For decades, development across much of Africa has often been linked to conferences, detailed proposals, and external funding agreements. Roads, bridges, drainage systems frequently appear to depend on international approval. In Kedougou, however, the process began with a different approach. It began with a call to act, not from a global financial institution, but from within the community itself. The Fasoibo initiative posed a simple but bold question. Can citizens build their own city? The response arrived quickly. Students volunteered. Civil servants donated their time. Merchants supplied materials. Soldiers joined as participants in a shared effort. Each paving stone was molded, laid, and adjusted by the same hands that would later walk across it. What makes this initiative stand out is not only the speed of construction, it is a reversal of the usual sequence. Instead of waiting for funding before taking action, action came first, and resources were generated internally. In a country where financial limitations and security challenges persist, this approach carries strategic importance. It reduces borrowing pressure. It shortens delays. Most importantly, it builds ownership. When a resident contributes a single bag of cement, that person stops being a passive beneficiary. They become part of the authorship of change. In many traditional development projects, communities are consulted. They attend meetings. They listen. They wait. In Kedougou, participation was not symbolic. It was operational. The people were not observers of progress. They were the engine driving it. Construction sites functioned with quiet discipline. Early arrivals prepared materials. Others mixed cement and sand. Teams rotated in shifts. Students worked during breaks. Civil servants showed up on weekends. Military personnel participated without ceremony, blending into the rhythm of collective effort. The process resembled a coordinated machine powered by shared purpose rather than external contracts. As the paving expanded, visible change followed. Markets became cleaner. Vendors noticed smoother access for customers. Foot traffic increased. Children played without raising clouds of dust. During the rainy season, pedestrians no longer navigated mud and puddles along broken roads. Roundabouts and entrances reflected sunlight from fresh granite instead of absorbing layers of red sand. Kedougou began to look different. More importantly, it began to feel different. Before the first stone was laid, the city lived under a constant veil of dust. During the dry Sahel winds, Fine particles settled on rooftops, shop counters, and window frames. Residents wiped surfaces repeatedly each day. The dust was part of daily life. It shaped the atmosphere of the town. For months later, the atmosphere changed. Over 200,000 square meters of paving stones replaced the red soil. Straight sidewalks emerged where uneven terrain once stood. But the most significant shift occurred in perception. When people build a road themselves, they build confidence alongside it. Confidence that development does not always need to arrive from outside borders. Confidence that organized communities possess productive power. Confidence that visible results strengthen belief. Ibrahim Traoré's role in this transformation is often framed as catalytic. He did not present a complex blueprint tied to external negotiations. He introduced a challenge. Instead of asking how much funding was available, he asked what could be achieved with what already existed. That question triggered a ripple effect. Across gatherings and local discussions, Fasoibo became a reference point. Other regions observed the pace and method. Conversations expanded beyond Nando and Kédougou. The project shifted from a local initiative to a national example of alternative thinking. Naturally, comparisons emerged. Would this model make international financial institutions irrelevant? The more balanced view suggests otherwise. Large-scale infrastructure such as highways, power plants, and water systems require extensive capital and technical specialization. Institutions like the World Bank remain essential for complex national undertakings. But Kédougou introduced another layer to the discussion. Not every development step requires heavy borrowing. Not every improvement demands years of negotiation. Basic infrastructure, when well organized and collectively supported, can move faster than previously assumed. This does not imply that internal mobilization is effortless. Sustainability depends on transparency, planning, and maintenance. Materials must be managed carefully. Contributions must be accounted for. Organization must remain disciplined. Without these elements, enthusiasm fades. Yet the past 4 months demonstrated how quickly progress can accelerate once trust is restored. Trust became the most valuable form of capital in Kédougou. When residents saw their donated cement transformed into durable sidewalks, belief deepened. When they walked on streets they had helped construct, the project became personal. That personal connection sustained momentum. Belief created a cycle. Visible results strengthened participation. Participation produced more results. The process fed itself. The psychological transformation may prove more durable than the stones themselves. Infrastructure can deteriorate over time. Mindsets once shifted influence future action. Kédougou began as a city of dust. It became a city of paved streets. But beyond physical change, it became a demonstration that development can originate at the neighborhood level. Today, the paving stones lie quietly beneath daily footsteps. They do not announce themselves. Yet each one carries a statement. Progress is possible without waiting. Instead of asking who will finance change, people increasingly ask what they can do now. That shift redefines the relationship between citizens and development. It reframes negotiation with external partners. A community that has proven its own capacity enters cooperation not as a dependent, but as a contributor. The broader implication extends beyond sidewalks. If such mobilization continues, the model could expand to schools, public markets, drainage systems, clinics, and community spaces. The foundation has been laid not only in stone, but in collective consciousness. There are resources that can be borrowed. Money can be loaned. Equipment can be imported. Expertise can be hired. But faith cannot be transferred from abroad. Kédougou's experience illustrates that faith, once activated, becomes productive capital. More than 200,000 square meters of paving stones covered dusty roads. At the same time, they covered doubts about capability. What began with a single molded granite block evolved into a broader message. When hundreds of thousands of stones connect, they create a path. When thousands of citizens connect, they create momentum. Development is not reserved for wealthy nations. It is not restricted to external donors. It is the outcome of organized effort and shared determination. Kédougou's story spread because it symbolized possibility. A provincial town became a reference point for national conversation. The message was clear. Development does not always begin with balance sheets. Sometimes it begins with a decision not to wait, a decision to contribute, a decision to act. If this spirit continues, the most lasting outcome may not be measured in square meters. It may be measured in generational thinking. A generation that grows up seeing neighbors build sidewalks together begins to imagine other projects within reach. A city that regains confidence alters its trajectory. A nation that regains confidence alters its narrative. In the end, the transformation of Kédougou is not simply about cleaner streets. It is about reclaimed agency. It is about citizens stepping beyond spectatorship into authorship. Sometimes change does not start with speeches or ceremonies. Sometimes it starts quietly, with a stone placed carefully on the ground and hands ready to place the next one. Stone by stone, the path extends forward. As the final sections of pavement settled into place, something else began to solidify across Kédougou. The project was no longer seen as a temporary campaign. It became a reference point, a benchmark, a proof of concept. People began to measure time differently. Instead of saying development takes years, they pointed to 4 months. Instead of saying resources are insufficient, they pointed to what had already been achieved. More than 200,000 square meters completed. Nearly 295,000 square meters produced, thousands of volunteers coordinated, tons of cement, sand, and granite mobilized without external debt. The achievement altered expectations. Young people who worked on the sites gained more than experience mixing cement or aligning stones. They gained exposure to organization, logistics, teamwork, and accountability. They witnessed how planning translates into structure. They saw how small individual contributions accumulate into visible transformation. Civil servants who participated after office hours experienced development from the ground rather than from paperwork. Merchants who donated materials saw a direct connection between contribution and customer flow. Soldiers who joined the effort reinforced the idea that national service extends beyond security into civic responsibility. The initiative created social cohesion across professional and generational lines. There was no strict separation between planners and beneficiaries. The same individuals who organized the work also walked on the finished sidewalks. That overlap strengthened accountability. When people build something themselves, maintenance becomes personal. Damage is not someone else's problem. It belongs to everyone. This dynamic introduces an important long-term consideration. Sustainability will depend on maintaining the same discipline that produced the initial success. Infrastructure requires upkeep. Expansion requires continued coordination. Transparency must remain consistent to protect trust. If the momentum fades, the example risks becoming symbolic rather than structural. But if the discipline holds, the model can mature. Other municipalities may adapt the framework. Local committees may formalize volunteer rotations. Material procurement systems may improve efficiency. Training programs may emerge from experience, converting volunteers into skilled workers. The paving stones could become the foundation of a broader civic training culture. Beyond the physical infrastructure, the deeper shift lies in perception of agency. For years, development conversations often began with limitations. Limited budgets, limited capacity, limited access to funding. Kadugu introduced a different starting point. Available labor, available commitment, available local materials. The narrative shifted from scarcity to coordination. This does not eliminate the importance of international cooperation. Strategic partnerships remain necessary for large-scale industrial, energy, and transport projects. But cooperation functions differently when internal capacity is demonstrated first. It becomes negotiation between capable actors rather than dependence on external rescue. Confidence becomes leverage. The experience also reframes leadership. Leadership here was not defined by distant directives, but by mobilization. The call was simple. The structure was organized. The participation was voluntary. The results were measurable. That formula carries symbolic weight. When citizens witness measurable change in a short time frame, skepticism declines. Participation rises. Trust in collective action strengthens. The psychological distance between idea and implementation narrows. Kadugu's paved streets now serve as physical reminders of what coordinated effort produces. They reflect sunlight during the day and carry footsteps at night. They support daily commerce, school commutes, and market activity. But beneath their surface lies something less visible and more enduring, a recalibrated belief in capability. The city once associated with dust and stagnation now carries an identity linked to initiative and execution. That identity can influence future decisions. When new challenges arise, the memory of these 4 months will remain. The precedent has been set. A single stone placed alone is ordinary. Thousands placed with intention form structure. Thousands of people aligned around shared purpose form momentum. Kaduga demonstrated that development is not exclusively financial. It is organizational. It is psychological. It is collective. And perhaps the most lasting outcome is this shift in language. Instead of asking, who will build for us? The question becomes, when do we begin?